Hi everybody, my name is Tim Robinson. I'm a senior at Ohio Wesleyan University studying nutrition, and I'm also with the Cooking Matters program. Today we're just going to be covering a quick, easy recipe made with pretty much almost all shelf-sustainable ingredients, except with a few ingredients right here, like your peppers. But I just want to show you to start. I went ahead and prepped a few ingredients. I have all the spices measured out here ahead of time. We'll cover which those are here in a minute. I went ahead and measured out some lentils. You see we have the dried lentils right there. And then also just went, for time's sake, measured out 1 cup of corn from this just Kroger basic canned corn. So to start, we're going to cover just like the first step. What we want to do before we start anything is go ahead and prep all the vegetables. This is just going to save a lot of time and struggle as far as putting ingredients together in your pot and then running back and forth and trying to get things done. So first I want to start by saying I did wash my hands. Everything's washed and clean. Just for safe measures, we have some hand gel here on the side. And then also all the fresh produce has been washed. So first we're going to start off here with the onion. This goes in separate by itself to start. So we're going to have a separate bowl for this. How we're going to start by cutting this is you'll see there's 2 sides to the onion. One side right here holds it all together. So what you're going to do, rather than cutting it down the middle, you want to keep this side intact with either parts of the onion. So you're just going to take these 2 sides right here and cut it right through them. And when you're doing it, you want to try to keep your hands back like this, just so you're not cutting your fingers, because the last thing you probably want to be doing right now is making a trip to the ER. That would not be good. So what we're going to do, you'll see it has this little extra coating on the outside. The easiest way to just kind of get through to that, just kind of cut in a little bit right here, just like that. And once you cut in, you can see, you can peel that top layer right off pretty easily. There you go. And now that that's out of the way, we're going to cut off this little stuff right here. Like I said, you want to keep this flat, fuzzy end intact so the onion doesn't fall apart. And then we're going to cut this off right there. And then from there, if you want to scoot back a little bit lower, okay. We're going to make small cuts through the onion, just like this. Make sure you're keeping your hands back and even keep your body back too, just in case you were to cut through. So after you make those cuts, you want to collect the onion back up together, and then you're going to make some cuts through this, just like that. So it's back together like that. Then you're just going to start making your cuts from this side back to the fuzzy side that hold it together. About maybe like a 1/4 inch, if that. Right there. And you'll see just like that. And a lot of these too, these bigger parts, you can see the way the onion's formed, they kind of break up just like that. So if you have any bigger pieces, you can break up or dice a little bit more. But there, you have your diced onion, and that's the first half of it. And hopefully we can get through the second half of the onion without my eyes tearing up, because they're starting to do that. So again, we're just going to cut that little piece off right there and make a cut to get that outer protective coating off. Just peel that off right there. Set that off to the side. And again, we're going to start making cuts from the bottom to the back of the onion, but not cutting all the way through. About 3 to 4 from bottom to top should work. Again, take your time, you don't want to cut yourself. And then you're going to work from that front end back to the fuzzy end. Right there, just like that. And you want to cut all the way down to the bottom, but you don't want to cut through the back of it. Just like that. And then just like before, make your cuts. Start dicing it up. Kind of like a rocking motion. Side. All right. So there's our onion all diced up. Right into there. All right, second, what we're going to be cutting is our pepper. So what we're going to start off by doing this, there, is what I like to do. You'll see the stems on right there. I like just to go ahead. You can either pull it off just like that, or if you want to, you can cut it off. And you'll see when you have the pepper, when you sit with the bottom side down, it's stable, but it can kind of rock around on you. So what I like to do is take the bigger flat side and put that down to secure it. And then what you're gonna do, you see there's a middle part to the pepper. What you're gonna wanna do is cut around that. So you're gonna cut around that. So you're gonna be maybe a 1/4 inch from the center, and just make your cuts from there down. And you get pieces that look like that. Another thing with the bell pepper too, you can buy them in a bunch of different colors. But honestly, it's kind of up to taste preference, what you'd rather have. So you'll see right there, we have our 4 sides. What you're gonna do to dice this, you're gonna flatten it out, just like that, and then cut it into strips, just like this. Again, keep your fingers back. And from there, just dice it up into smaller pieces. Also, you'll see in some of these pieces like this, it has this inner membrane part. It's entirely edible, but it can be a little bit bitter. So if you want, after you flatten those out, you can go in and carefully cut that out, just like that. And you see it's gone. So like I said, it's not necessary that you do it necessarily. It's kind of a preference. I usually cut it out, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. Again, we're just gonna cut these into little smaller strips. And from there, we're just gonna cut it from one end to the next, making them into smaller little pieces, dicing those up. There that is right there. Flatten this piece. As you see, there's 9. It's not always in the pieces. It just depends on how close you cut it. Cut some pieces. Last piece, and like I said, it just varies from piece to piece. That last piece right there has a little bit in it, so we'll just go ahead and trim that right out, making careful not to cut ourselves. All right. And as you'll see a later step in the recipe, you'll combine the corn, the peppers, and the jalapenos together. You see I already measured the corn out. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is just go ahead and combine those, just so I don't have to dirty up any more dishes than I have to, and I'll make it more convenient later on. All right, so that's done. Next, we're gonna go to the jalapeno. You do wanna make sure you wash the jalapeno as well. And another thing is when you cut it, you want to make sure you're not touching your eyes because it can burn. If you want to, you can wear gloves just so you don't transfer any of the juice on your hands to burn it. Also, if there aren't any fresh peppers available in your store, one of the things I picked up, they do have canned or diced jalapenos, so you can save you the trouble of having to dice it or cut up in the first place. And if you're not a big person that's into spice necessarily, I picked up some of these green diced chilies. So like I said, if you can't find them fresh, usually they're in can form as well. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna cut the top off of this jalapeno, just like that. And then we're gonna make one cut lengthwise right here, just like that, splitting it into 2 halves. And as you notice, if you give me just 1 second. In the middle of the jalapeno, you'll see all the seeds and the inner membrane. Like I said, if you want and you're somebody that's not really into spices, you can take a spoon and scrape a lot of that out, just like that. However, I do like the spices, so I'm just gonna keep the other one in. But anyways, what we're gonna do is once you have it in 2 halves just like that, you're gonna cut it down again into other piece, just like that. So you're gonna cut the first half in half again. And then from there, you can put those 2 pieces together. Just dice it up a little bit more. And depending on how finely you want it diced up, you can cut it up more than that if you don't want to get more concentration parts of heat in your meal. But I'm just gonna leave it like that. So again, we're gonna take that first half right there, keep our fingers back, cut it in 1 more half there. Just like that, walking through, and each time keeping our fingers back. All right, so like I said, we're gonna put that jalapeno with the peppers and corn, and I'm gonna rinse my hands off real quick because I don't want to burn my eyes. Also, you might want to put this towel in when you're done with it so nobody tries to wipe their face with it. So what we're gonna do next, we're gonna come over here and get ready to saute these up. So what we're gonna do is turn it on to medium heat. And add any cooking oil of your choice. You can use olive oil, you can use canola oil, whatever you have on hand is fine. I'm just gonna put a little bit of that in there and let that begin to heat up. And then we're gonna take about 1 cup of onions. So the recipe calls for 1 cup of onions, but you can add more or less. I'm gonna add just a little bit more. Those right there. And with your leftover onions, what's kind of nice about them, onions you can pretty much throw in anything. So if you have some lettuce laying around the house, you can put them in a salad, you can put them in with your eggs in the morning, make an omelet. It doesn't really matter. So we're gonna put those onions in there and get ready to saute those up. So we're gonna let those sit. And while those are sitting, we're gonna head back over here. Okay, so like I was saying earlier, just for time's sake, I put a lot of the ingredients kind of already prepped them up to start. What I have here was the red lentils. What's nice about these, they're a great source of fiber. I think they're around, yeah, so these red lentils have 4 grams of fiber per serving, which is really nice. There's also a decent amount of protein in these. So kind of this is a great recipe maybe if you're a vegetarian or someone who's vegan. And I get it can maybe be kind of hard during these times to make meals for that. This is a really easy meal where you can do that. So there's beans in the recipe, there's lentils, so it's really great for that. Also, like I said, I'm using chicken broth in this recipe. However, you can use vegetable broth if you'd like, just so you can make it completely vegetarian or completely vegan. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the peppers over here and sit them down. And check on these again. And when you're sauteing these up, usually it takes somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes, depending on how fast you have this heated up. You can go ahead and preheat it while you're chopping the stuff up if you'd like. just so it doesn't take quite as long. And when you're doing it, you want to wait till they're about a nice little golden brown. Yeah, see they're starting to cook up a little bit. I can hear it. Also, it's always nice to kind of clean up as you go along. That way, everything's done by the time your food's done, so that way you're not, after your meal's cooked, you got to worry about cleaning up a bunch of dishes. As you go along, just kind of clean up. Just a little pro tip from a not pro. Also, I just kind of wanted to touch on some things. For this recipe, we are using canned pinto beans and canned black beans. However, you can buy whatever's on hand. So a lot of this stuff I didn't have to go to the grocery for. We already had some beans in the shelf. Also, if you want to buy these dried beans, you can buy those. Both of these are shelf stable. Also, with the other ingredients, like I said, almost all of it's shelf stable. We just have the crushed peeled tomatoes, tomato paste, salsa of your choice, and that's about it. Okay, here, just check everything. All right, so if we come back over here, it sounds like the onions are starting to cook up a little bit. If you want to see here, you can see they're starting to simmer. So we want to kind of keep stirring those around. Another minute or two. So now once you got those started to saute up, you're just going to take your corn, your jalapenos, and your bell peppers and just go ahead and dump all those in. Kind of stir them around a little bit. And then that's all going to cook for about 5 minutes. Really, you just kind of want to wait for everything to tenderize a little bit. So we're going to let that go for about 5 minutes. We're going to cover that up. And what we're going to do, we're going to come over here and grab our beans. So with beans, a lot of times, in canned food in general, what people complain about is their high sodium content. But an easy way to kind of fix that, just an easy fix, is when you open up your beans, rather than throwing them right into whatever you're cooking, you can go ahead and strain them out first and dump them in, which you should probably do anyway because honestly the bean juice is a little bit gross. So you dump them in, and if you rinse them, it actually reduces the sodium content. So you can either buy the regular beans and rinse them or buy the low sodium. However, I would suggest rinsing them anyway regardless. So we're going to dump in 1 can of the pinto beans here. It's about 15 ounces. And then we're going to dump in 1 can of black beans. And go ahead and get those rinsed off. Those are rinsed. Get them all into this bowl. Perfect size. And just to kind of show you guys, like I said, all the stuff they're packed in, processed in is a little gross. So you can see it's kind of not too appetizing. So that's kind of when I go ahead and rinse those off. So we're going to set those off to the side right there. Then we're going to bring over our tomatoes and tomato paste. Also, we're going to grab our vegetable broth. Salsa, spices, lentils. Alright. Transport everything over here. few minutes. So as you can see, this is what everything's going to look like. About the same as before, but we're just starting to get everything cooked up. Okay. So now that that's gone for about 5 minutes or so, we're going to add our beans. Like I said, that was about a 15-ounce can of pinto beans, a 15-ounce can of black beans. Get that all combined, stirred together. After that, let me get my can opener. We're going to add one 15-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. Pull that back right there. Get that tossed in. Put that back down. We're going to add 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. Get that put in there. Alright. We're going to add all of our spices. Get that stirred around a little bit. Alright. Next, we're going to add about half a cup of your favorite salsa. I'm actually going to shake this back up a little bit. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be any salsa in particular, just whatever you like best. So we're just going to put a half a cup of this in there. Just turn it around again. Next, we're going to add 2.5 cups of chicken broth or vegetable broth. Going back to the whole sodium thing again, these can be high in sodium, so I got the low sodium kind. So we're just going to add 2.5 cups. Alright. Go ahead and put that in there. Stir it up a little bit. So next thing you're gonna do, you're just gonna wait for a little bit. You wanna bring it to a slight boil before you add the red lentils in. So you're just gonna, it'll probably take maybe 2 or 3 minutes. It was already going a pretty good boil when we added everything else in. So just a side note, like I said, everything in this recipe, I think I've said it multiple times, is shelf stable. The red lentils you can get, they'll keep for a while. All the crushed tomatoes you can buy. Salsa will stay on the shelf for a while. The corn, even some of the produce that I bought. The peppers, a lot of times you might be able to find some different options or a substitute. The beans, you can get the canned option or you can get the dried. So really it just kind of comes down to preference or whatever's available in that respect. This is starting to come to a low boil here. I'll let that go. And really all low boil is once you kind of just see the little bubbles come up. You don't want anything, you don't want to overcook it because then it'll start burning to the bottom. And that'll just kind of leave you with a mess and not necessarily ruin your food, but it won't be great. All right, here. So it's starting to come to a low boil. So we're just gonna go ahead and add these in. Stir it up here. We're gonna go ahead and cover it. And then turn it to low, so about 2.5. We'll go somewhere around there. And then we're gonna let this set for about 25 to 30 minutes. Just kind of keeping an eye on it, maybe stir it here and there, and then we're gonna come back to it. All right, time's up and we're back. As you can see, it thickened up a lot. That's kind of what the red lentils do in here. It kind of thickens up the consistency a little bit more. So now that that's done, this is an optional step here. Like I said, if you want to keep it vegetarian or vegan, you don't have to do this, but what we're gonna do is add heavy whipping cream. Also, I guess you could add some kind of coconut cream if you'd want to, but just substitute in whatever you'd like as far as that goes. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna add about 1/2 cup right there. Just add it in, make it nice and creamy. Put it back on here. And like I said, this was about 25 to 30 minutes, kind of letting it cook. You see there, it thickened up nice. That's a nice creamy texture in the milk. All right, so now's my favorite part. We're gonna serve it up. So a serving size is about 1.5 cups. But obviously if you want a little bit more, if you want a little bit less, whatever works. And this is my favorite part about it, is you can add a lot of different toppings to it. My favorite topping is how many times you, in the house, you have this old bag of tortilla chips, you just have the crumbs and nothing else left to use it for. It's actually one of my favorite toppings for it. You can just add them in, crush them up a little bit more, add those in. Also, you see here, we have some sour cream you can add in. I always like putting a little dollop of that on top. Add that in. And add the cheese. And as you see, a lot of these toppings, you know, you usually have in house. You know, a lot of times, like I said, you have this old bag of tortilla chips you don't know what to do with. You might have some sour cream on hand. We had guacamole last night, so there's a little bit of that left I could throw on there. So it's pretty versatile. So, well, thank you very much for coming. There will be a link posted for the recipe. Also, I want to give a thanks to my awesome videographer, as my sister Laura. And yeah, have a great rest of your day and stay safe, and hopefully you enjoy it.